back to Love Unveiled, the resilient relationship revolution. I'm your host, Waqas Malik, a forgiveness coach, and today we are diving into a conversation with Jon-Paul, an Army veteran, speaker, high performance coach, and lifelong learner. We explore the impact of anger, resentment, and hatred on relationships and discuss strategies to liberate yourself from these destructive emotions. Thanks, John Paul, for joining us today.
Good to be with you, Waqas Malik.
You're welcome. So my first question is to you that what are the adverse effects of anger, resentment, and hatred on our mental and physical health in relationships?
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for having me. And this is such an important topic, especially in relationships, because it touches all of us and affects every relationship. So, because of the energetic cost to my happiness, peace of mind, and the impact on my relationships, I try my best to avoid hatred or resenting anything. But I admit I'm human. It's not always easy, especially in the times that we're living in. I often have to work very hard at not resenting our political leaders, for example, for the poor example that they set. It's so hard. Um, so it's fair to say we all experience varying degrees of anger that can turn into resentment if we don't do something about it. So maybe we can just begin our discussion there, because when we think about anger, anger is a useful emotion that serves a purpose. No one wants to be someone else's doormat, for example. No one wants to be subjected to the hurtful behavior of another person. So we have to ask ourselves, what is anger really? I think anger is an intense emotional response that gets triggered by a situation or an event that we find ourselves in the present moment, that feels threatening to us in some way. Or maybe it feels unjust or frustrating. And so we respond in a real forceful way when that happens. And maybe that sounds clinical, but let me illustrate it for you, because picture's worth 1,000 words. And when we really look at anger, we can discover that it's really the tip of the iceberg. There are lots of other things that are happening beneath the surface. So let me share my screen. There you go. Okay. So in this slide, I think illustrates my point here. Anger, when we're angry, that's just the tip of the iceberg, but there's so much else that could be going on underneath the surface. And anger and resentment, well, resentment involves holding on to that anger toward past events or people you believe have wronged you or hurt you. When you hold on to it for too long, onto that anger, it can easily turn into resentment. And when you do that, it's one or a combination of these things beneath the surface that influence your happiness and affects your relationships. So, people ask, um, is it okay to be, is there anything wrong with being angry? Well, you absolutely have the right to be angry at an unjust person or a situation that you're experiencing. Anger is a very natural response to injustice, and good, healthy anger floods us with adrenaline and courage and the will to stand up for ourselves and take action when we feel we're being wronged. But here's the thing about anger. Mentally, harboring these emotions can lead to increased stress and anxiety and depression, which can lead to a toxic emotional environment. And that's not good for relationships. Physically, the stress on our body that anger and resentment produce when we hold on to it can really contribute to higher blood pressure or a weakened immune system. Sleep issues, for example, if anybody struggles with sleeping, and heart problems, the impact these have on relationships can be enormous. Unresolved anger and resentment can create emotional distance between individuals, and that leads to a sense of isolation and loneliness if we don't take care of it. when it happens. And this emotional disconnection can really put a strain on our relationships, making it challenging to find mutual understanding and support with each other. You know, the cumulative effects of holding on to negative emotions can really take a toll on the well-being of both partners if they don't address what's going on. It might hinder their personal growth too, their fulfillment and their happiness together, and contribute to feelings of dissatisfaction in the relationship. So, and one final thought, often anger is weaponized by one partner or the other in a relationship for the purpose of exerting power over the other person. And when that happens in a committed relationship, this can really have devastating consequences. When that happens, and it happens far too often, I believe, it's a clear sign that the person who is using anger as a weapon may really be struggling with self-esteem and self-worth issues. And that's a whole other deeper issue that must be addressed in order to get after those anger issues later on.
Right. So, are there practical steps to liberate ourselves from these destructive emotions within our marriage or other connections?
Yeah, I really believe there is. Yes, indeed. Liberating ourselves from destructive emotions within a marriage or other relationship involves a combination of self-awareness, communication, and proactive steps. And look, we're talking about relationships primarily here, but this includes relationships with our family, our friends, and our colleagues and bosses at work as well. And there are some practical steps we can use to navigate and overcome our feelings of anger. And so let me give you a few examples, and these apply to resentment and hatred in relationships too. It just gets incrementally more challenging when you're dealing with resentment or hatred, because it's anger that's really dug into our system that we've been holding onto for far too long. And this is why it's so important to remember that in general, anger has a useful purpose when we express it in a healthy way, but we're not meant to hold on to it. By design, anger is meant to be used sparingly and for a temporary duration. It's a means to an end. Think of it that way, not the end itself. It's when we allow it to linger, when we hold on to it, that it permeates the fabric of our relationships. It hinders opportunities for deeper connections with each other, and it stunts our growth and dulls our harmony in our environment. So it's really crucial to address this if we want to foster a healthier and more positive environment in our personal, professional, and social relationships. Well, how do we do that? I believe the first place to start is with ourselves through self-reflection and awareness. Remember, you can't change what you aren't aware of or don't acknowledge. So when it comes to our emotions, a good place to start is to acknowledge and recognize the specific emotions we're feeling, whether it's anger, resentment, or hatred. Understanding and labeling these emotions is the first step toward understanding what needs aren't being met and getting that addressed. I also suggest exploring what triggers you by reflecting on the events or situations that do trigger your anger. Getting to the root cause of that helps develop strategies to address and overcome them. Remember, anger is a sign that something else is happening beneath the surface. That's where the source of our triggers are and where the wound is that is asking us for healing. Open communication is another approach we can take if it feels safe to do that. If your partner is supportive and you feel seen and heard and accepted by him or her, communicating openly and honestly about your emotions and sharing your feelings in a non-confrontational way by emphasizing the impact the situation is having on you rather than blaming can go a long way to dissolving that anger and understanding each other on a deeper level. And if you're on the receiving end, where your partner is trying to communicate their feelings to you, it's really, really highly incumbent on you to foster a safe space for open dialogue and actively listening to their perspective, because understanding their feelings and concerns is essential for mutual empathy and the resolution of whatever is happening in that moment. Just imagine how it feels to be seen and heard by someone who's important to you after you haven't felt that way for a while. It's so liberating. And it also leads to healing the connection you share with each other. If you can't do these things by yourself within the relationship, consider seeking guidance of a marriage counselor or a therapist. Professional support provides a real safe and neutral and constructive environment for both partners to express themselves and work through their issues separately and then together. If you're past anger and dealing with resentment or hatred, if you're doing these things, individual counseling can be preferable to address the situation, your personal triggers, and learn appropriate coping mechanisms so the overall dynamic can improve if that's the outcome you desire. If counseling or therapy isn't an option, consider working with a coach to understand yourself better. I mean, a life coach or a success coach or personal development coach. You and I are forgiveness coaches, Waqas Malik. We understand the enormous value in learning from the past and releasing that energy, that investment of anger and resentment around it. The potential health and emotional benefits are also remarkable when we do that. So coaching is a highly effective way to learn how to cultivate empathy and develop a more compassionate attitude. Let's see. Other practical steps include forgiveness rituals, implementing healthy coping strategies such as setting and respecting boundaries, using stress management techniques, increasing the quality time we spend with each other, and practicing gratitude for the positives each of you bring into the relationship. Because remember, overcoming destructive emotions is an ongoing process that requires commitment and effort from both partners. And by taking these practical steps, I believe couples can create a healthier and more fulfilling connection with each other and foster resilience and growth within their relationship. And that's really where the magic is.
Wonderful. So, how does forgiveness play a role in healing and finding inner peace?
Yeah. Well, in essence, forgiveness, as we know, is a dynamic, continuous process that repairs relationships and restores us to a state of emotional and mental well-being. And by learning how to let go of anger and resentment, we open ourselves to the possibility of cultivating inner peace and fostering a more positive and fulfilling outlook on life. Forgiveness contributes to our healing in so many positive ways. Remember the picture of the iceberg. When we're angry, there's something going on beneath the surface that needs healing. Forgiveness is a gentle but highly effective way to identify what's going on and do the healing work to restore ourselves to wholeness again. When we practice forgiveness consistently, we learn to release the intense negative emotions that are attached to our stories around past grievances that we hold on to, and they hold on to us. They make us a hostage. As we learn how to truly forgive, we learn to loosen the grip of anger and resentment around those stories. And when we do that, we allow room for the emotional healing that needs to take place to become whole again. We can restore our emotional well-being through forgiveness too. It's really a powerful tool for that because it frees us from the emotional turmoil that's associated with investing in past wrongs that have been committed against us. And as you know, if something has already passed, there's nothing that we can do to change it. And yet, so many of us stay invested emotionally in those past events. So this provides us with an opportunity for emotional well-being and stability. You know, in a lot of relationships, forgiveness is essential for rebuilding trust and reconnecting with each other. By practicing forgiveness, we signal a willingness to move forward together, create a foundation for renewed trust and connection. And a forgiveness coach is an excellent resource for learning to do this. And I would recommend you to everyone in your audience because I'm familiar with the fantastic work that you do. And since real forgiveness fosters empathy and enabling us to understand our own emotions better, we can understand our emotions in a different light, in a different perspective. So we're more open to understanding the other person's emotions too. This deeper understanding can lead to more effective communication with the relationship and easier problem resolution. And that's what we all want. Forgiveness really interrupts the patterns of negativity that we can sometimes be overinvested in. We know this can damage or destroy relationships, being overinvested in the negativity that we sometimes bring into them. So instead of perpetuating a cycle of resentment and retaliation, forgiveness gives us an opportunity to create a new narrative focused on growth and understanding each other to help break the cycles of behavior that are driven by our self-limiting actions and beliefs. So when we practice forgiveness, we learn to accept and even be grateful for the challenges that we face because they're learning opportunities. And this sounds counterintuitive, and to the ego, it is, but this is a pathway that leads us toward personal growth and offers us an opportunity to find different perspectives with each other and the lessons that are hidden in our difficult experiences. There are so many benefits that are available to us through forgiveness, and that's why I call it our superpower, particularly in our interpersonal relationships with people who are important to us. Forgiveness reduces stress levels by setting the stage for more positive and empathetic interactions with others. You know, Wayne Dyer said, when you change the way you look at something or someone, what you look at changes. I believe forgiveness is a method for achieving this. And this can be an empowering gift we give ourselves without any need for validation or participation from another person. This is how we foster a sense of autonomy. Forgiveness starts from within ourselves. The energy it produces is felt by others. And we practice, and as we practice showing up with more empathy and compassion for each other, this is how we cultivate more love and change the world together, one person at a time, one relationship at a time.
Right. Is there a correlation between emotional well-being and the success of our relationship?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. There's a very strong correlation between emotional well-being and success in relationships. Because emotional well-being, which encompasses factors like self-awareness, emotional regulation, and overall mental health, plays an important role in shaping the dynamics and outcomes of the relationships that we get into. Emotional well-being is linked to cultivating more effective communication skills. People who are emotionally healthy are much better equipped to express themselves, become active listeners, and resolve conflicts faster and more constructively. This contributes to open and clear communication within those relationships. Emotional well-being fosters empathy and understanding. When individuals are emotionally healthy, they can more readily empathize with their partner's feelings and perspectives. And that creates a foundation of mutual understanding in the relationship. People, and especially couples with strong emotional well-being, are better at managing and resolving conflicts. They're less likely to be overwhelmed by negative emotions, and that enables them to approach their disagreements with a problem-solving mindset rather than reactivity. Emotional well-being also contributes to resilience in the face of challenges and setting healthy boundaries. Couples and families that are emotionally healthy can define and communicate their needs and boundaries, and that fosters a sense of respect and balance within the relationships. And when we are emotionally healthy, we're more susceptible to providing and receiving support. This is something I experienced in my marriage with my wife, Marcella, and it just makes our whole relationship richer and deeper. She is so good at understanding me that she almost instinctively knows how to offer genuine support when I really need it. It nurtures our relationship environment so that I want to give the same kind of support, the same level of support back to her. And of course, this leads to so many more positive interactions within our relationship that leads to enjoying just being in each other's company. We laugh a lot in our relationship. We do more activities together because we want to be together. We're more affectionate with each other, and we share positive experiences with each other. I really wish for every couple out there to have what we share together. Another advantage of emotional well-being is that it empowers people to make thoughtful and empowered decisions in their relationships. And that leads to higher levels of relationship satisfaction and long-term success. Emotional well-being is a fundamental element for success in relationships, I believe. It influences the way we navigate our challenges, communicate with each other, and contribute to our overall health and fulfillment. So investing in developing emotional well-being together is really a crucial aspect of building and sustaining vibrant relationships.
Right. So what actionable strategies can be taken to promote emotional and physical health within our most cherished relationships?
Wow, you always ask such great questions, Waqas Malik. Thank you. There's so much we can do. Promoting emotional and physical health within relationships we cherish most requires us to be intentional and consistent with each other. You know, some people say relationships are 50-50 and it's all about finding compromise with each other. I disagree with that. If you want to have a deep, lasting, vibrant relationship with someone who's very important to you, where you feel fulfilled, the kind where life just feels richer and you feel more alive as an individual, you have to be all in. It has to be 100-100. 50-50 isn't enough. It has to be 100-100. People see my wife and me and ask me, how can they have what we have? It's really amazing to both of us because we don't always see the vibration we're projecting to the world. We don't see ourselves the way others do. So when we're asked this question, sometimes it just blows us away. And I would just say it takes effort, but I wouldn't want to be on this journey in life without my Marcella. We have really built something special that we love sharing with others. So when we're asked that question, I tell them these are some of the actionable strategies they can implement to deepen their relationship. First, create an environment where it feels safe to be yourself, one that fosters open and honest communication with each other, because that builds trust. It builds respect and it builds an emotional connection to each other, which is the foundation of any long-lasting relationship. Second, I'd say practice active listening. My wife and I now ask each other for our full attention when we want it, when we need it. And when we do that, we've learned to put our phones down, to stop everything we're doing, look each other in the eye, and be fully present with each other. And we learned that it validates our feelings and leads us to a better understanding of each other's perspectives. It's such a powerful thing to look at your partner in the eye and give them their full attention. It's a powerful way to feel seen and heard and fully accepted for who we are. So third, I'd say be grateful for each other. Marcella and I don't take each other for granted. We cherish every day we have with each other and appreciate each other for both big and small things. It just comes naturally to us. We're always saying to each other how grateful we are to be together. As some people might think that's over the top, we're so romantic. Well, we've been together for 13 years now, and we're still that way for each other. I am confident that not a day goes by that we don't express gratitude for each other for something. And it might be something small, but just expressing that can go so far. And on the other side of that is being able to clearly define and communicate healthy boundaries with each other. Now, this can take some patience and endurance, and forgiveness too. Sometimes when we cross a line that we might not, we shouldn't. But to understand each other's needs for personal space and time and autonomy is huge. It's a huge part of having a successful relationship. Number 5 is dedicating quality time to spend together, whether it's a date night, shared hobbies, or having meaningful conversations over some tea. When we make quality time a priority, it really reinforces our emotional connection with each other. And the more quality time we spend with each other, the easier it is to open the door to cultivating emotional intimacy by sharing deeper thoughts and fears and dreams with each other. So I would suggest to create a sacred space together where both of you feel safe to be vulnerable, deepening the emotional connection and understanding that you have with each other. And finally, there are other strategies like incorporating physical activity into your routine as a couple. Marcella's always after me to exercise with her. So, but whether it's exercising, hiking, or dancing, or going for walks, or engaging in activity and in physical activities together really promotes overall health and strengthens the physical bond between partners. Encouraging and supporting each other's personal and professional goals is important too. You know, Marcel and I, we're each other's cheerleader. It fosters a sense of accomplishment and contributes to our well-being and strengthens our relationship. And being each other's cheerleader also helps us manage stressful situations together. When one of us has had a hard day, being an active listener can make all the difference in the world when we want to discharge that energy around something that's happening in our lives. Managing stress collaboratively this way really supports emotional and physical health. And of course, the other side of that is celebrating each other's accomplishments and wins, no matter how small. We've learned that when we recognize and integrate our successes, it really boosts our self-confidence and our self-esteem in ways that reinforces a sense of shared accomplishment within our relationship. And finally, and this one is an important strategy that a lot of couples tend to overlook. Be open to seeking professional support when challenges arise that are too big to handle. I struggle sometimes with post-traumatic stress. Marcella has been my rock, and I've learned to heal those wounds. But sometimes, as I peel back those layers of the onion of past pain and trauma, it can be too much for her to shoulder that burden by herself. So we recognize that engaging in a somatic practice with a practitioner when I need it provides us with a valuable means to navigate difficulties when they happen sometimes. And it feels really good to know that if we need support, we can ask for it, or we can find a coach that can coach us through a situation that we're trying to work on. It really makes a huge difference in our relationships, not to feel like we have to carry the weight of our challenges all by ourselves. As couples who are all in 100, I believe we must remember that fostering emotional and physical health within our relationships is really an ongoing process. Consistent effort, practicing with each other, having mutual respect, patience, and being committed to our own well-being really contributes to the creation of a supportive and thriving partnership. I'm so grateful to be able to say that that's what Marcel and I have built together. And I wish that same joy and sense of deep connection and meaning and love on every couple out there in your audience who want the very same thing.
and amazing. Thank you for joining us for this impactful discussion with Jon-Paul. Stay tuned for our next episode where we continue our exploration of the path to resilient relationships. Thanks, Jon-Paul, for your time.
Thank you, Waqas Malik.
आज
Take care.